like a fake pair where I could see out one side? I don't need the polarized lens on it, but no, it was very. I've walked into a few things. There was no method; it was real. I played the fifth. No, I don't. You guys have seen what you've seen, and it's there's a lot going on in there.
I think sort of the when we started out to talk about Luke and how that world was going to be revealed to everybody, it's always best to stay as grounded as you can. And while there's a long history with this character, I think starting out what we wanted to do was be able to bring to life someone who, if you're a Luke Cage fan, it was the first question everybody asked, which is who's going to play Shades, and by the same token, it was important to us to be able to allow that character to grow and be integrated. And when Theo came in, it really wasn't a question of who was playing the part. It was just it simply came in because one of the things that's important to us is that when you look at the way that Mike is playing Luke. He is a larger-than-life personality. He's a larger-than-life presence, and so we needed somebody who, in many ways, was not intimidated by that. In many ways, that didn't even matter. And what was kind of fascinating about the way that Theo brought to the role, which was, no, I'm actually the hero of the story. So it's not a problem for me that this person that's a disturbance and what I need to get done, we'll just eliminate that person and then we'll continue with our story.
Yeah, and I think and I say this, and I say it every day when I was at work, it's like sometimes you forget because you don't think the word superhero, that you're on like a superhero show. You're just in there living in this world. That it just so happens that there's a guy in it who's very strong. You know what I mean? But you're just going about your day, doing your thing, whatever that is, and you just happen to be in this world with people who have these strengths or powers or whatever. But to me, it was no different than the same mindset, the cunningness, and then all the games that are being played. It's just he just happens to be able to throw you halfway across New York if he wants to.
And again, I think that's what's important about all of the Marvel television shows, but in particular the shows that we're doing on Netflix is that it does come from a very real and grounded place. And so it is, for all intents and purposes, it's the story of a man who has to accept responsibility for who he is. That's the story. If you watch that story and you're caught up in that story, and then, oh, by the way, he can also bench press an automobile, that's great. But that's the icing on the cake. If what you do is you start from a place of, he's got superpowers and he's bulletproof and he's going to come in and there's going to be big giant action, you'll hit an audience. You'll hit the audience that's here at San Diego Comic-Con and they'll be very happy with you. But we're trying to tell a story that resonates with everybody.
But they probably can't tell you what the story was that they just saw. It was just a lot of action, bang, boom, this, that, and then they don't really remember what was the story. What was the point of that story? And then when you're dealing with one of the greatest comic book writers, and you're dealing with, everything comes from an extremely real place. Every move, every look, everything that happens from minute to minute, every character, as I say, it's about the relationships. It's coming from a real and organic place. That's where you're supposed to start. Because all that other stuff is just bonus.
And when we would talk with our directors, it was the thing that we would always try to make sure that they understood, which is it's very important that what happens in this scene has nothing to do with you're on a superhero show. For all intents and purposes, you're watching a crime drama. For all intents and purposes, you're watching a story of redemption. If you can get those things to come across, then everything else will work out fine. The audience will actually suddenly go, oh, we forgot. Oh my gosh, a fight broke out in the middle of a soap opera. So that's basically what you want to have happen.
There were times I was watching Jessica Jones and all of a sudden, be those rare times where she jumps up to the balcony and I was like, oh man, I totally forgot that she could do that. I didn't even realize that because I'm so into exactly what's happening in her struggle and in her thing, and I think that it's the same with us. Yeah, so that's how you know the job is being done. And that's exactly what's, the same exact thing that we're doing here. That's why we're so excited about it.
Jeff, can you talk a little bit about actually from a Marvel kind of top-down perspective how, this is fourth installation in the Netflix collaboration that you guys have done, how you approach kind of the meta-level storytelling?
Look, it's a very good question, and you know, as the person who is the head of television and is responsible for all of that, the best part about it is having a great team and having a group of people that starts with Alan Fine and Dan Buckley and Joe Quesada in New York that are continually looking after the whole grand scheme of it, but also on the ground level of having people like Jim Corey, who's our head of production, and Kareem Zarek, who is sort of responsible for the day-to-day of what's happening on the shows. You know, it's those kinds of people that care everywhere of what it is that we're doing. Is there an overall story that we're telling? There is, but it's also, we have a responsibility to, much like in the comics, to tell stories that will exist on their own. So that if you've seen Jessica Jones and you met Luke Cage and Jessica Jones, awesome. We think that's great. But we can't bet on that. We have to be able to tell a story that when you come into this, you've never met Luke before. You don't know who he is. You don't know what his story is. You don't know what his past is. Some of that stuff we purposely left out of Jessica Jones. But the reason why Mike and Luke were in Jessica Jones was because that's their story. And it was, and Mike said something earlier that I thought was really interesting, which is Jessica Jones was from Jessica's point of view of who Luke Cage is. You didn't see scenes with Luke Cage on his own doing things. Now he comes to Harlem in order to figure out his life. And we're now going to be able to see the world from his point of view. And in the same kind of way, but you know, next up when we get to see Danny Rand and we get to see the story of Iron Fist, we're going to get to see a whole different view of where these street level heroes are. And I think if there's only one meta thing that we do look after is that, you know, there's no bigger fan of the Marvel movies than I am, but at the end of the day, the Avengers are here to save the universe. In this world, these street level heroes are here to save the neighborhood, and in some cases are here to save themselves. And if we can make you care about the people that are in the show, and we can make you care about the hero, it actually, on many levels, you can empathize in what's going on even more so than the giant epic roller coaster wonderfulness that are the Marvel movies. But what's at stake in those movies is so huge and so beyond what it is that we're going to do. And a lot of that also has to do with the fact that we're on television. And because we're on television, it has always been that TV is something that you invite into your home. You're not in a theater with a screen that's 400 feet wide. It's a very intimate experience. And what's more intimate than the way that people are now watching television is they're watching on their phone. What do you do with your phone? You press it against your face. So if it's going to be that intimate, it better be something that is compelling. Because people need to have a reason to stay and watch. And in our particular case, they have to stay and watch for 13 hours. It's not as though our story is going to get wrapped up in 2 hours of neat little, you know, incredible adventure. You know, our stories need to be told in a way that you are compelled, you are driven, you are absolutely just hungry to find out what's the next episode. And hopefully when you get to the end, to go back and watch it all over again.
That's right. And that's the humanization of it. And I think that's such a beautiful, you know, what it is. It's how now with television, it's your choice. You're going to either go to that next episode or you're not going to. What a movie you're in, you sit down, you're in. Bad, good, indifferent. We've all walked out of movies and go, oh man, that was terrible. Why did I just sit there? But you sat there for 2.5 hours, or 3 hours, or whatever it was. But the television, you got to make people go to that next episode, that next one, the next one. The only way you're going to do that is by getting in touch with their humanity and making them feel something in those characters that relates to them, whether it be reluctancy or taking a chance or heartbreak or something with relationship, anything.
Sunglasses, absolutely.
Everybody wears sunglasses.
Everybody knows what shades are.
They might not like them. They hurt your nose sometimes. But you know what? You got to do it. It's better for your eyes. And your skin's very soft around. You know, it's very sensitive. I noticed. I slid out in the sun yesterday and it killed me. I should have wore sunglasses. Should have took my own advice. So that is, you know, that is such an important part. And I think that that's what's so intriguing about television in general right now. you know, is that people are going there for stories, into the stories, and this is absolutely no different than whatever shows are being awarded awards and all this kind of stuff, high drama as they might call it. You know, it's no different than any of this. That's what we're doing.
Well, Hell's Kitchen doesn't exist anymore because it's all been gentrified. So, in order for us to be able to, it absolutely was. Well, we were shooting in Harlem.
Was that the influence of the New Yorkers working on it, or was that like?
No, we've said from the very beginning that there are really 5 defenders. There's Daredevil, there's Jessica Jones, there's Luke Cage, there's Iron Fist, and then there's New York City. And it was always intended to be that way. And so, you know, we shoot all over the city. We're on the rooftops. We're in the subways. We're up in Harlem. We're down at the docks. We're everywhere that we can go. And so we're trying to get to a place where it does have an air of authenticity to it. Some of those things you can't do and are on a stage because it's just, you know, that's the best way for us to be able to do things. But for the most part, I'm in absolute awe of our production team in the fact that you know, we try to get out as much as we can, and you know, I think Theo can speak to that meant being on some pretty cold nights.
We shot in the dead of winter.
Yeah,
we love
so
it.
It's and actually that's one of the things that is. We were talking about this yesterday. Is much like it's very hard to tell it's raining on film unless you actually augment the rain or you light the rain. And sometimes you're sitting there and you're watching, and the problem is if you're paying attention to the rain, then you're not. The drama is not
doing
working
our
for you.
job.
But you can sometimes notice on people's shoulders that they're wet, and you're going, but it's not. It doesn't look like it's raining. And the other thing that we've found is that for the most part you don't see people's breath. And I'm lucky enough that I'm there in a parka in Video Village, like looking at a little screen going, yeah, we're ready to move on. These guys
I
are
have a
standing
thin layer of gabardine of a suit between me and that cold weather.
Exactly.
Cold weather. But with Harlem, it's like you can't. If you're from New York, you realize you know when you're in Harlem because the buildings are lower, the streets are wider. It's just a different feel in Harlem than it is, you know, for say Staten Island or Brooklyn or Manhattan. You just feel different, and that's why we were so lucky to be up there and actually shooting. And it's, you know, it's just incredible to be in New York and shoot.
The architecture, the people in the street, the way that the streets are run. And then just the thing the word that we always come back to is the musicality of it, which is there's a rhythm to Harlem that is different from anywhere else in that city, and it infected and affected the way that we were making the show, and that was all Cheo. That was from the very beginning. Cheo came in and just talked about how important music was.
Let's go.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone.
Take care.
Simone Missick and Frank Wally.
Yeah. Frank's leaving. He said he didn't want to meet you guys.
I know.
I'm joking. How's everybody doing? Good.
If you can, yeah, something with caffeine.
Yes, please.
Last table was awful.
I
don't know what they were drinking. They were drunk.
I thought that was water in their cup.
And, he was put his hand on my knee under the table. I didn't think that's
It
inappropriate
feels
behavior.
uncomfortable. That was my
Yes.
knee.
Oh! That explains it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Simone, should I ask you, you were basically the first African American female heroine that we get to meet in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So, and it's way past time and about, you know, like awesome to see you.
About damn time.
Exactly. Yeah. So what, did you feel any pressure or what was that like to kind of take on the role of Misty Knight and that other mantle?
You know, I think with everything there's a certain amount of pressure to be true to who you know the fans love and who the fans want to see. But at the same time, as an actor, you just have a responsibility to tell a story. And so it was exciting to be able to tell this kind of story, to have this character who's got so much history, who's so strong, who's so badass, but then you see the beginnings of where that comes from.
I thought a lot about where he came from, career, New York policeman, moved up to detective, and found his way into Harlem, and teamed up with Misty, and the two of them been together a long time and know each other 100% in and out, and they got each other's back. I think they love each other, a great deal of respect and regard, and there's that bond that unless you're really a policeman on the force, you can't really imagine what that bond is like. The amount of trust that has to be there, the amount of just knowing